Hello and welcome to the DFS Coach Talk Today podcast. I am your host, Mike Apotria, joined today by my good buddy, Mr. Andy Gallagher over there. And I'm new to this, man. This is my first, video show over here. I got my rally mustache I'm rocking. Not clean shaven, of course, but how are you doing tonight? We're recording this the night before. Normally, I would give the date. I guess it is the April 27th podcast. It'll be coming out Monday, but we're recording this the night before. So, how are you doing tonight, Andy?
Doing pretty good.
Anything good going on? Celebrate your weekend, nice.
Yeah, nice weekend. It's just a lot of rain, and so couldn't get any of the outdoor activities going. And instead of doing the outside cooking, grilling, I was just spending time on the inside cooking, doing brunch and stuff like that, and cooking some things and trying to keep myself busy with learning some more cooking skills. So taking on another profession there for a little bit.
I'm a big chef, so I'm a big griller. That's kind of my thing. So I love living on the grill. Anytime it's a decent day outside, I'm cooking. I'll find any way to cook something on the grill. It doesn't even matter what it is. But I went out there this weekend. Propane tank died on me as it was heating up. So my grilling ventures got put on hold. But that thing will be getting filled up right away, and I can promise you there'll be at least 2 to 3 things grilled in this upcoming week. So we have two good teams to get to though. I'm pretty excited about tonight. We're talking about Blue Jays. We're talking about the Yankees, two top teams, and for their own different reasons. Yankees having one of the best overall performing teams, one of the fan favorite ballparks, I guess you could say, when you talk about some sort of splits going there, and then the Blue Jays with just an up and coming sexy lineup, up and coming sexy team, a lot of youth, a lot of top prospects on there, a lot of big names you should know going into this year. So I'm super excited to talk about it. We're going to jump right into this. We got some Yankees action to go into. We're going to start with the cream of the crop, everyone's interest right here. So I know you're pumped up. I know you got a lot to say. So I'm going to let you jump right into this, Andy. Break us down. Talk about some Yankees for us.
All right, man. Well, getting into it then, I guess I'll go ahead and start with the batting order leading off. And at the end of the hitting segment here, I'll get into some overall team stats and what to kind of look, for to expect from last season based on those. And same thing with pitching here. So first in the batting order, DJ LeMahieu. He's improved on his exit velocity, ISO, just hitting the ball hard with improvement over the last 5 years progressively. His average X velocity ranked 19th in the MLB last year, so this is better than all his previous years in Colorado. So he has an established track record. It upped his hard contact, especially last year, which was hopefully not only an outlier, but still in the top, percentage wise compared to the other hard. And expect him to hopefully keep that run going there. I look forward to using him quite a bit. It just seems like every time you put him in DFS batting order on your lineup, he just blows it out of the park. So batting second, I look likely
I'm
got
with.
Aaron
I'm.
Judge.
I don't want to cut you off. I mean, I'm with you on LeMahieu though. This kid's he's a stud. Just like you said, overall numbers increasing. Leaving Colorado is something you generally don't see. And you're talking about a guy that's a former leadoff hitter pretty much for his career, and he won the batting title at one point too. So he's a hit tool. He can play multi-position. We've seen him play second. We've seen him play even first now for the Yankees. He can play third. I'm sure he can even get time at short. But he's going to find himself in a lot of times in scoring position in one of the best lineups in baseball. So with you on DJ, I didn't want to mean to cut you off right there, but I'm high.
Awesome.
I'm high on DJ. I mean, he's a guy I've always liked, and I think a lot of people lost sight of him, mostly because he got kind of pushed off to the side once a lot of the shiny new tools came up in Colorado over there. Once Trevor Story bursting onto the seams, and they knew they had a few other guys like Brent Rogers coming up in the minor league system. Ryan McMahon is another guy that they knew they wanted to get a little time at second base, although he hasn't panned out. But a lot of action, so he kind of got pushed off to the side, and then really just had one of the best seasons of his career in the Yankee uniform.
Yeah. So hopefully keep that going now. And the next guy, Aaron Judge, is reports looking well for him. He's not up to actually playing a game yet. If obviously the season had started at the regular time it was supposed to, he would not have been in there, and still would not have been in there. So, but it looks like he's getting. He was one of those guys they let in actually in the Yankees facilities from the get-go. It appears because of rehab. So he's been there from what I understand, and even though he's not fully healed, he's just taking the progressive, taking his time, taking it easy to fully heal his injury. So, but as far as his outlook, for the season, getting back to it, he's a top of the line hitter and hard contact percentage, exit velocity, X slugging, which are all great numbers to be in line with. The ISO, I would hope, will go back up a bit with a healthy, maybe hot start, as he did in previous years. Of course, not getting the at bats. He just had a down year for 2019, but I'd expect that, big, tall, lengthy guy, a lot of power, even from bird's eye view. You can see that the guy is, once he's fully healthy, he'll be one of the top sluggers in the league.
Yeah, I think that especially with all this time that we've kind of gotten laid off from baseball, it's only going to benefit Judge. He was a guy that was going to be shelved for the better half of like 6 to 8 weeks, they said, prior to the season starting. With all this time off, I would fully expect him back in the lineup. I believe it was Damian Lillard that was talking with him. And I think
Yes.
someone, we touched on that, and he said he'd be good to go if the season started like right now. So that's good news for Judge. We're talking about, again, you touched on it, the exit velocity, the hard hit rate. He's in that handful of group in the top five guys who you distinctively separate themselves from the pack. Guys like we're talking about Giancarlo Stanton, Miguel Sano, Joey Gallo. I believe, maybe not counting all of last year's numbers, but in brief periods, we saw Vlad Guerrero Jr.'s numbers in there as well. So this elite group of guys that just absolutely pound the ball and hit the ball, and when the ball comes off their bat, just sounds completely different. And when those guys are healthy, it's a matter of if or when, not if, is what I'm trying to say. It's putting the ball in that kind of power into play. It turns these little bloopers into home runs. It turns these little, smacks, singles into doubles into the gap. So they're the difference makers. So I'm really looking forward to Judge healthy, and I'm hoping we can even get a little bit of Stanton healthy too.
Yeah. So third, I probably got Gleyber Torres in there. He should crack the lineup here and be in there starting lineup. He's put together 2 solid seasons. Showed off a lot of improvement over 2018 as he lowered his strikeout rate that we always like to see. He's a nice mature hitter while specializing in homers. So I don't have the exact number of homers, but he's definitely going to continue to seems like to put it together there. What do you think about Torres?
Glaber really put it together last season. You said it yourself. I think that a lot of people, maybe just looking at it from an overall number standpoint, might be a little high on him. I'm a little lower on him in overall aspect, just simply because a lot of his production just came against Baltimore at Camden. I mean, I get it; he's going to play there a lot this season, but he was putting together some stretches where he was going to Baltimore and like getting these 2 to 3 home run games. I think it was like 4 times over the course of the last season. So. I think that he might have overproduced what a lot of, his year-long numbers could look like. He's still a fantastic player. He was a top prospect at one point. Not taking anything away from him. I'm still thinking he's going to put together a fantastic season overall. But I'm expecting slightly down numbers, and especially with how deep shortstop is this season, there's going to be a lot of guys, especially early on in the season, and we know that in DFS, that's when we're looking to capitalize the most. Glaber's a guy that we're going to anticipate he's coming in here being probably one of the higher, if not highest price shortstops. And there's going to be a lot of guys that are going to be falling under the radar that we could easily get for much, much cheaper that have very similar upside, just waiting to break out. One, in which we'll get to in a little while, but I'll let you continue before I just start talking about Bo
Yeah.
Bichette so much right now.
Oh, we'll keep that in mind then. Yeah, maybe we'll get a little cheaper value in here. So at that spot in the order, no doubt we'll get production third, and then I believe he's also a righty. We're looking at all righties so far, I believe, in this lineup. So keep that in mind too as we look into cleanup spot. Giancarlo Stanton. Stanton had streaks of high BABIP before his career with Miami. So this high small sample doesn't matter so much for 2019. His home run to fly ball rate is right in line with a couple of other spikes in his career numbers like 2015 and 16. So he did probably put up some numbers there. Last year he was just hurt most of the year, as a down year, to where he could. I don't obviously know for sure he could bounce back to one of those MVP type years, whether it's 15 or 16. Looking at, it's just a matter of time, kind of like you said with Judge. In a situation where we want to see it, we want to have him out there. Start maybe this is the best advantage for him to be in, or best situation is where extra layoff time can only get stronger and healthier. So maybe Giancarlo Stanton will bounce back to one of those previous years.
I think with Stanton, it's purely just health. When this guy's healthy, he's elite. He's one of the hardest hitters in the league. He's one of the best hitters in the league. He's been that way since he was playing in Miami. I think it's especially in your season long fantasy baseball leagues, when you're looking at the price that you have to pay for a guy like Stanton right now, you're getting the discount. You're not paying that premium value anymore, and I think it's going to be the same way when it transitions over to DFS. Is that you're not going to be paying a premium price tag for him, but if he's healthy and he's in that lineup, especially in the heart of that lineup in Yankee Stadium, there's no doubt about it. He's an absolute monster. This guy's got 40, 45 home runs written all over him if he plays an entire 162 game season. There's no doubt about it. And even when you look at a lot of the injuries he's suffered, they're not like these nagging injuries that you would plague a guy over his career. They're freak injuries. Most notably the ball to the chin. So it's I'm not too worried. I'm a little concerned when you take into account that it's been every single year. It almost feels like that he's missing 20 to 40 games minimum. But in DFS, not worried about it whatsoever. If he's in that lineup, I'm locking him in. He's an absolute stud.
Yeah, probably in that 4K range on FanDuel. Seems like what he's about right now in simulation games. So keep that in mind. Then number 5, looking at the really unique guy here and the best catcher probably on most people's radar for the year for the Yankees, Gary Sanchez. For the second year in a row, he hit basically a second in all Major League Baseball for the max highest exit velocity. So that means he probably hit it out of the park. Obviously, more so than anywhere else, farther than any other guy, pretty much. So other than being hurt, he has produced fine power numbers over his 4 seasons with increased ISO over 2017. So 2018, he did well and still increasing his power even more than the previous year. In 2019, didn't have a chance to really get it going either because the Yankees were just rocked hard with injuries all season. I remember so many times stacking this team, and you're playing guys like I wouldn't even normally mention here, like Mike Ford and the other guys I'll get into. Those they stepped in very nicely bench wise, but now some of these guys are looking or still to break the starting lineup, but you can only fit so many guys in to this power lineup, and so. Anything about Sanchez for you?
Yeah, I think Sanchez. It's really going to be slate dependent for him. I mean, spending up on catcher is tough in general, just because we know
Yeah.
how many positions you want to, and a lot of the times, you want to dumpster dive. You want to find that one guy that just goes 2 for 4 for dirt cheap, and nobody else has him, and that's your low ownership ticket while you're in the GPP is getting that good catcher as well. So, do I play him? Yeah, I here and there in the right stacks I do. Even on a one-off, maybe if I
Yeah.
don't love the pitcher that he's going against. But he's one guy that we've seen throughout his career, kind of struggle later in the season. He does wear down. He does get tired. We've seen that when he catches for many games in a row that he suffers at the plate a little bit as well. They're going to want to keep him fresh as often as possible. So don't, the one thing you have to worry about Gary Sanchez is pitch hit situations as well. He's also not the best pitch framer. That's something that he's notoriously known for being pretty awful at, actually. And we've seen actually a couple of his pitchers complain about it in the past as well. So there's a lot of negatives that come with Gary Sanchez, but you touched on the positives. He hits the ball hard, exit velocities highest among catchers. When he makes contact, it's just as good as anybody else at any other position almost. So, I'm not going to knock you if you want to pay all that price tag for him. He's worth it. He's well worth it. I would just say, make sure he's in the right matchup.
Yeah, And on DraftKings, of course, when you can spend up, you spend up for him. I mean, I really you don't see how you could lose given the upside on even on that decision on DraftKings since you have to play a catcher.
Yeah, no,
So
it's like you said, it's going to be, it's a blessing in disguise on some sites where we don't have to worry about that sort of thing.
yeah,
You can just slot in a first baseman instead. But that's also one of those situations where maybe Gary Sanchez is a great tournament play on some of those websites because he gets overlooked, but he's just as hard of a hurting player as some of those first basemen.
yeah, he's going to hurt you a lot too some days, no doubt about it. So Luke Voigt, I'm looking at sliding into the sixth spot. Um, Seems that he may be able to sustain a higher BABIP, maybe up towards around 340 or so. Higher batting average guy and a smaller sample size compared to some of the other guys with just one full season. But I loved his X slugging. It showed well in 221 bats, so limited time frame. But it looks to me like he's projected to start in this lineup and at a decent spot. And he's a big, powerful guy, nice, powerful swing. So I really just don't see anything but any path but going up for him.
He's one of my favorite bats in this lineup. I love Luke Voigt. I mean, outside of that injury last year, which I believe it was, what was it? When your appendix, oh, not your appendix, your what is it? Your intestines hernia. I
Oh,
believe he had a sports hernia,
yeah.
and that's kind of what sidetracked him. So again, it's one of those injuries that it's not like he tore his ACL. It's not like he tore his biceps or anything like that. Hurt his elbow. Shoulder, anything that's going to, necessarily affect his swing. Yes, oblique is very important, and we see guys that get oblique injuries shelved for a while. But if this is truly fixed and he's good to go, as far as I know, he's expected to slide in and starting first base. I don't think anybody's taking that job from him at this point. He hits for average. He has a great eye at the plate. A guy that was on pace for 35 home runs had he played. Great lineup. He's batting six. He's going to see as many pitches as he could possibly hit. I'm all over Luke Voigt. You're getting a great top of the line first baseman. You're not paying for him, especially in like those season long kind of leagues too. A guy that is probably ranked, in that 14th, 15th rate. But like if you were telling me by the end of the season he's like the sixth or seventh, maybe even five, it wouldn't even shock me one bit. I think sky's the limit for Luke Voigt.
Awesome. So yeah, we especially given it always looking at pricing, so it could be good value. Number 7, Brett Gardner. He's a sprint speed specialist. Had himself a really good X slugging season on top of that. So you're kind of getting some really double positive value here. Interestingly, his BABIP was very low for his standards, as a usual for his career, but his home run to fly ball rate showed increased in showing nice improvements with his extra base hitting. So on base percentage is good. Of course, like I pretty much always been saying, get him against the righty so that he can get a steal in there, increase his upside. So nice improvement over the years. Seems like I don't know have his exact age, but like an older guy. His status as a starter in center field seems like it's going to be in place. So he should be starting there. So, but with these other guys' potential returns of Stan and Judge, it still should not affect. Oh, he's 36, I see here. The other guy is going to challenge him. Probably not going to be a regular in Aaron Hicks. Hicks is, the guy, obviously, they could slide in certain days, some days in that spot. But I see Hicks as more like a split platoon speed guy as well, where he's not going to provide the overall value that Brett Gardner would.
I think at this point in Gardner's career in this lineup, he's strictly there for defense. They have plenty of bats in this lineup. Gardner, you touched on it, and that's exactly what his career has become. He's no longer in that top leadoff spot where he's worried so much about average, getting on base, maybe stealing a bag here and there, and getting drove back in by there's always solid third or fourth hitter or whatever it may be. He's batting in the back end of the lineup now, so you're kind of seeing his home run or his fly ball rate rise a little bit, and he's going to lead to a couple more home runs, I'm sure, for Brett Gardner. But that could definitely also impact. Obviously those singles, those doubles, even the way or as many steals as he normally would get, just because he's not going to be on base as much. That's kind of the way I'm looking at it. It's not a guy I generally would be targeting in DFS. The only sort of positive that you have is that even the guy back into the Yankee lineup aren't too bad, so it's not like he's got terrible guys hitting behind him either. So, but generally not a guy I'm going to be targeting season long. Not a guy I'm really interested in the DFS, just because when I'm looking for those guys that I could possibly get a steal of, being able to target him against a righty is very very
Right.
positive, like you just mentioned. That's a good scenario where you maybe could look at that. But he's not a guy that's generally getting a ton of home runs, and he's not getting a ton of steals either. So now you're really, I don't think steals are the most predictable stat, but the
Right.
guys that I do try to target them with are they also the guys that are maybe the 20-20, the 30-30 guys, the guys that there's some other upside in the other categories that I could depend on as well.
Well, I mean, I'll see. He seems like still a guy that has some left, some gas in the tank. Even though he's 36, maybe he'll have a drop off. But if he had a season, if he has a season similar to what, even in a small sample size of what we'll probably get in any form of a season this year, then I'll continue to play him until he slows down.
I could also see him getting pinch hit for a lot, especially if they need something late in the game. There's plenty of guys that they could take off this bench. You've already mentioned Aaron Hicks. Aaron Hicks outside of injury. He's been nothing short of phenomenal. It's always been just sidetracked by injury and injury and injury throughout his career. But when he's healthy, he's been one of the better bats in their lineup for the past few years. So I can even see him stealing some at bats. When they're not using a DH available, you'll see there's Stanton probably come in there, and he's not necessarily going to play center field, but they're going to look to get other bats involved, and push comes to shove. There's good bats all over the place. You're going to get to a couple of them in another minute. Someone's got to budge, and might just be Brett Gardner.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of timing. The youngers guys coming in for the older guys, but until I see it, I'll stay with Gardner. That's the great thing. We can agree to disagree on some
Yeah,
things.
hey, I'm not going to knock you on it.
That's cool. So next guy, batting eighth, the guy Gino Urshela, without a lot of history as a rookie. The kid shows a lot of slugging potential. He's hitting the ball fairly hard with a launch angle that's comparable to some guys higher up in this order. So, hey, all systems go for Urshela as far as I can see. Right-handed, I believe, should be fine and pretty much either split. Seems like he would even give you a bit of speed. I don't have his steal numbers, but looks fine, and that pretty much round out the American League order here. We got to figure out a DH. Maybe you can help round that out for me.
DH is either going to be, it's most likely going to be Stanton, any chance that they can get. Again, he's a guy that's just had several injuries throughout his career. So if you can keep him from playing the field as often as possible, plus they have several other great outfielders that they could use. So in options that they could use, it's most likely going to be Stan. Urshela, just to touch on him real quick. I love this kid. I think he's going to be very good this season. I think you're looking at a guy that was kind of very, very under the radar. This whole Yankees lineup, I think through and through is absolutely stacked. It wouldn't shock me if Urshela is, in the late 20s, maybe possibly low 30s in home runs, 30 like right around that 29 to 31 range, with a good batting average, decent eye at the plate. Gets it done though, and when you're going to talk about runs being scored, this lineup, like I said, through and through. If this guy gets on base, the guys that are going to be coming up, TJ LeMahieu, like we talked about at the top, just a hit machine. I expect there to be plenty of runs scored for Urshela as well too. So a really good back end of the lineup kind of guy. If you're looking to get exposure to this Yankees team and you don't want to pay up for the studs,
Yeah,
absolutely all over Urshela.
looking like the regular starting third baseman.
Absolutely, and I don't see
So
that going away.
every day at bat basis, hey. So bring him on. Great DFS value. Too bad he can't get up in the order like he probably would be on any other team, but we'll take what we can get there whenever we want to do a full stack on this team.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would love him at the top, but it's not like he's gonna be, bucking one of those guys anytime soon unless somebody gets hurt.
That's right. So then the other guy that I would, of course, definitely feel worth mentioning here would be Miguel Andujar. Andujar is another one of those guys where he can just kind of pop in the lineup, and if you find a good spot for him in there, of course, probably more so later on during the lineup. 25-year-old righty. Taking a look at his numbers real quick. Career 627 at bats, 27 homers, 97 RBIs, a few stolen bases, average 287, on base 318. OPS looks really good at 819. So his nickname is Papa. So looks like he's going to give us some pops in the lineup.
I like Andujar. I mean, it's again, it sounds repetitive just saying you like everybody in the Yankees lineup. It's tough not to. He was kind of plagued by injury last season. Only reason why he missed a lot of time. Coming into the camp, not really knowing his position. They want to play him at third originally, but his fielding's not the best fielder. So Urshela kind of claimed that job. Then they thought, we'll come into camp and we'll let him split time between him and Voit. But bottom line is he's not taking Voit's job either. So it looks like he's gonna have to find himself a home in the outfield, kind of be that super utility guy for the infield. A great little spot start guy. A lot of people might not be on him right away, but injuries always happen in this lineup. He's gonna find himself in there, whether it's at DH or other positions, whenever possible. Some guys are gonna get days off here and there. I'd expect him in the lineup, 4 or 5 days a week. And I think, if he already kind of showed that promise. We saw the average, we saw the power. He should, kind of displayed a little bit of pop as well. So a guy that's going to be on my radar, and I just, maybe a little less in season long leagues as opposed to DFS though. If he's in the starting lineup though, I expect a little bit of a cheaper price tag and a guy that could still provide that middle of the lineup kind of production towards the end. Like, seems like I'm struggling to hear you. Did you hear me? I can't even hear you, man. I don't.